here's connect, right? So the people, when they're like, how do I send this data out, right? So if I click on connect, here's where you could do these sorts of things. So the first thing we ask is, okay, here's some save settings. How do you want to save images, right? This is for saving images. Do I want to save failures? Do I want to save passes, right? So right now you can save them on the device. Remember, there is 11 gigabytes worth of space on these devices. That is a lot. That's a lot of pictures you could save, right? So I could save them on device. I could save them as JPEGs or bitmaps. I could give them a prefix. I could give them a time date stamp, and I could say, hey, I want, what quality do I want them at, right? So it's either, different percentages there. I could also save them as FTP or SFTP, right? This allows me to hook up to an external FTP server. FileZilla is very popular these days. You could use that and save and shoot these images off to the network, if you will, right? For being saved and used. So those are a couple of different ways where you could set, hey, I want to save the past images or the failed images. I want to save those different pieces there as we go. So very hopefully intuitive and looks very, just setting up any other communications to an FTP server was there. And if you just want to save on the device, again, here's your bitmap JPEG, and here's your different quality levels. All right. So one thing to note, image storage isn't always the highest priority, right? So if you're doing a high-speed application, you want to capture lots of images, just like others out there in the market, that's a lower priority. Remember, the primary responsibility of these units are to read barcodes, read inspections, do inspections, and shoot data and decisions out, right? So if you're trying to do like a 600 feet per second barcode reading that never stops, you're not going to be able to keep up using the image storage devices. It's like that. Everybody's software. It's nothing unique that we do. We try to give you as many as possible. We have some buffering and queuing in. However, it's just something to take a note of if you're starting to do some high speed stuff, right? If you want to just do a failed images or past images, there's less frequency involved in those, and you should have no problem with those. The next tab down is industrial Ethernet, right? So you have data you could send in from the PLC and data you could send out to the PLC. So first, if I look at data coming in, here's some barcode match string or no read string. So this would be information I'm reading in from the PLC, right? So if I'm doing a lot code or date code, again, this page is identical on the FS side. If I want to say, hey, does this match, today's date? I could send it over from the PLC, right? So I could say, and click this box, and then it'll import it from the PLC and use that in the match code for that particular tool. I can also send a string. Like every time I don't read, I could send a string value out. This would be that string that you'd want to send out here in the input of that particular tool. All right, let me go show you the outputs because they're way more exciting. So each tool has a whole bunch of different outputs you could send out, right? So this is my barcode tool. I could send out the time. I could send out the data. I could send out, how many values were there, all this sorts of information I could send out. If I click on object locate, you're gonna see that data changes, right? How many did I find, right? Right now you can only find one. Here is some of the scaling factor. Like what scale do I use? Well, it's 1.0. That's a lot of decimal places there, right? So you could send that out. You could send out the location coordinates, the score, all these individual pieces of data for each of these individual tools you could add up and build into your sample, right? Here's an edge tool, right? What time it is, the success of it, how long it took. I mean, there's not much you could really send out on an edge tool, but there's some data you could send there. There's also job specific pieces I could send out, right? Like what is the name of the job I was running? What was the result time? Do I want it to be a pass and fail? I want to send that data out in the string. All that information can be built in here and sent. On job specific things, if you're using an add-on instruction or similar things for the Siemens PLCs, there is a structure that's going to have a lot of these job specific things built into the header of it already. So a job pass fail bit is one of those that are built into the header that you don't have to necessarily pass as a job specific. That would be additional information that you'd want to pass about the particular job, right? If I want to add something like this, I could just say, okay, give me the X, Y, and angle. Right, you can see down here it builds what that memory sample is. I think it can then copy that and then paste it into my PLC program to be able to quickly, sort through and parse those particular pieces of information out. So that's kind of how you send data out or get data out of the actual device itself for the Ethernet IP. We also have GPIO mapping. Remember on the first demonstration I did, you have different inputs and outputs you could set up. I don't have any currently set up for an output, but let me just do that real quick. I'll go to my GPIO and I'll say I'll make this GPIO an output. And then it says finish this in the job builder connect GPIO mapping. So let me do that. When I come over here, you can see here it's the job result. I can say, okay, give me the GPIO2, give me the job result of pass. And that's gonna, anytime it passes now, GPIO2 is gonna turn high, right? I can say, well, I want that to be high, not low. Right, so bam, there we go. I'm off and running, right? So if I want to do a fail condition, I can say, okay, well, on GPIO4, I want that to be an output. And I can come back over here and say, okay, well, I want this to be my fail result. I want that to be high when it fails, right? So now I have my job pass fail done, just like that with using my GPIO. So pretty quick to do that. I also have this edit device settings. I could click on that and it takes me right back to that page, the same device settings page that I was showing you before. So it's another quick way to get around. Remember, there's a bunch of different ways to do the same thing with those particular pieces.